Kristaps Porzingis. Welcome back to playing basketball on the basketball court. Talk about getting sweet revenge against your former team, Kristaps Porzingis. Wow. Just wow. This is Sports Guy Talking that you guys are watching and listening to. I am Dustin Tran, your host, as I am here today to talk about Kristaps Porzingis destroying the Mavericks in humiliating fashion. The Celtics dominated the Mavericks in Game 1 of the 2024 NBA Finals as they won with a plethora of players playing well. As for Kristaps Porzingis, Game 1 was the first time that he played an actual NBA game since he injured his calf against the Heat in Game 4 of the Celtics first round series matchup. Before I say anything else though, I want to present you guys with the topic question. So here it is. Were you impressed with Kristaps Porzingis' performance in Game 1 against the Mavs? Of course, I was impressed with what Kristaps Porzingis did against the Dallas Mavericks. You guys have to remember that Kristaps Porzingis used to be a former player for the Dallas Mavericks. Not only was Kristaps Porzingis a former player for the Dallas Mavericks, he was actually a star player on the Mavericks. He was the second wheel to Luka Doncic, a very young Luka Doncic, that is. And Kristaps Porzingis was a really good player on the Dallas Mavericks. The problem with Porzingis on the Mavericks was that he could never stay healthy when it mattered most, and he was a little bit of a soft guy for a guy his size. But Kristaps Porzingis has completely changed that narrative this year. You look at how Kristaps Porzingis has been an excellent player for the Boston Celtics and that he plays with a certain toughness to them. What did we criticize the Celtics for in past seasons? The fact that they weren't a tough basketball team. But what have the Celtics done really well this year? Being a tough basketball team. Now, did acquiring Jrue Holiday via trade help as well? Of course, Jrue Holiday is an elite perimeter defender. Derek White is an elite perimeter defender. But the rim protection of Kristaps Porzingis also helps tremendously as well. And you look at how Kristaps Porzingis has played really good basketball for the Boston Celtics. I know that he missed the last 10 games prior to Game 1 with a calf injury, but when he came back, there was no rust in his game whatsoever. All these experts on ESPN are talking about how Kristaps Porzingis was going to experience rust coming back into the rotation in the NBA playoffs, but Kristaps Porzingis says, you know what? I don't care about rust. I care if I'm going to be playing effective basketball. How about I go ahead and score 20 points? I'm going to get you 6 rebounds, and I'm going to get you 3 blocks. I'm going to even block an incredible dunk that a Dallas Mavericks player tried to do. And you look at how Kristaps Porzingis completely took over the game early and often. There's a reason why the Boston Celtics were able to win this game by 18, even though they were up 17 after the first quarter. It's because they got off to a fast start, and that happened because of Kristaps Porzingis. I thought Sam Hauser off the bench was also really good as well. Yes, he only scored 8 points in 16 minutes, but you look at how he was able to give them hustle stats on the defensive end of the floor, and you looked at how he knocked down his open shots from 3. My point is the bench of the Boston Celtics was significantly better than the bench of the Dallas Mavericks. You look at how the Dallas Mavericks role players did not play very good whatsoever. Heck, the whole team in general just didn't play very good for the Dallas Mavericks. I know some people are going to say Luka Doncic needed more help, but I'm going to tell you guys that Luka Doncic needed to play better than what he did. Yes, he scored 30 points. Yes, he got 10 rebounds, but that's the bare minimum of expectations that we're talking about for Luka Doncic. Of course, Luka Doncic played good by proper standards, but you can't judge Luka Doncic by proper standards. You have to judge Luka Doncic like an actual superstar, and Luka Doncic did not play a good game by superstar standards because he was only able to get 1 assist. You mean to tell me that Luka Doncic, who is one of the best passers in NBA history, was only able to get 1 assist the entire ball game? If you're the Dallas Mavericks, you want Luka Doncic to be playing better than that in terms of passing the basketball efficiently. You look at how Doncic also had 4 turnovers. That's not something you normally expect from a player of Luka Doncic's caliber. You look at how Luka Doncic also took 26 shots to get the 30 points. That means he's not really scoring the basketball efficiently, and that means he had to work really hard to get those 30 points. That being said, though, he was better than everybody else on the Dallas Mavericks by a country mile. If PJ Washington is your second best scorer in the NBA Finals for your franchise, you're not going to win a lot of basketball games in that big of a stage. No offense to PJ Washington. I like the guy a lot. He used to play for my Hornets. He was a pretty good player for them. It's just unfortunate that he was stuck in a bad situation. But my point is, if PJ Washington is your second best player in the NBA Finals for your team, you're not going to win a lot of basketball games, and your games are not going to be competitive. And Kyrie Irving needed to play a lot better than he did yesterday. You look at how Kyrie Irving, he only scored 12 points. He only had 3 rebounds. He only had 2 assists, and he shot 6 of 19 from the field. He didn't even make a single three-pointer. If you're Kyrie Irving, you have to expect better out of yourself. And you look at how the Dallas big men were complete liabilities. Daniel Gafford, he only played 14 minutes. He was a complete liability during that time. You look at Derek Lively, he played 18 minutes. He was a complete liability when he was on the basketball court. The return of Kristaps Porzingis has completely opened up the offense for the Boston Celtics, and you look at how the Dallas Mavericks had no answer to stopping a guy like Kristaps Porzingis, and they're probably wishing right now they didn't trade away Kristaps Porzingis because they sure could have used a guy like him last night. Now, am I saying that the Dallas Mavericks screwed up in the roster construction? No, I'm not saying that, because Kristaps Porzingis was a player that was always injured whenever it mattered most for the Dallas Mavericks, and they needed to get guys that were going to be healthy around Luka Doncic. But when Kristaps Porzingis is healthy, he's as good as any big man in the National Basketball Association. And even though Porzingis has a label for being soft, well, I can tell you this: last night he was definitely not a soft basketball player. He was a tough basketball player. This guy was dunking the basketball really hard. He was shooting the three ball really efficiently. You look at how he was a great shot blocker on defense as well. He was able to guard the perimeter effectively as well. And Kristaps Porzingis played his role really well. He looked like an incredible guy off the bench. In fact, Kristaps Porzingis played so well to the point where you might be saying he might be the Finals MVP when all of this is said and done. Yes, it's only one game, but if Kristaps Porzingis keeps playing like this, he in my book is going to be Finals MVP. Speaking of the Finals MVP award, I picked Jayson Tatum to win Finals MVP award, and he didn't really have a great game for the Boston Celtics yesterday, nor did he need to have a great game. Yes, he only scored 16 points. Yes, he only got 11 rebounds, 5 assists. He didn't really have a great game, but you know what Jayson Tatum did really well? Being a great player on defense. He was able to guard his man really effectively, and he was able to switch onto guards pretty effectively as well. Jayson Tatum is one of those players where you have to actually watch the games to appreciate his impact, because Jayson Tatum is not always going to be going off for 30 or 40 points, and that's okay. That's not the system that Jayson Tatum plays in for the Boston Celtics. Jayson Tatum is not asked to score 30 points every single night. He's not playing in a LeBron James type system where the ball is always going to be in his hands. There's going to be nights where his primary job is going to be playing good defense and getting rebounds, and that's exactly what Jayson Tatum did. I'm fine with how Jayson Tatum played. Even if that means Jayson Tatum doesn't win Finals MVP, it's perfectly okay, because Jayson Tatum is playing in that kind of system where he has to share the basketball with other players, and you can't fault Jayson Tatum for being in that kind of system. You look at how the role players for the Celtics were really good as well. You look at how Al Horford, he was really good on the defensive end of the floor. He did a great job with rim protection as well. You look at Jrue Holiday, elite perimeter defender. He also locked down Kyrie Irving really effectively. Yes, he only chipped in 12 points, but there's a reason why he was a plus 20. That's because of the fact that he was playing excellent defense, and he was able to lock down Kyrie Irving in an efficient manner, which is something that you can't say about a lot of players guarding Kyrie Irving. And you look at how Jrue Holiday, he expends all that energy on defense, and it's okay for him, because it's not like he's exactly a great player on offense. Now, am I saying Jrue Holiday can't play good offense? Of course not. He can play that role really well if necessary, but the role for him on the Boston Celtics isn't going to be scoring 20 points a night. His role on the Boston Celtics is shooting the three ball really well and playing good defense. And then, of course, you look at Derek White. He was able to space the floor really effectively. And then, of course, you've got Jaylen Brown, who's an excellent scorer for the Boston Celtics. Again, he is capable of going off for 40 points at any given time. Now, does he do that quite often? Not really, but that's okay, because he's not asked to score 40 points a night. He's not asked to shoot the basketball all the time. The Celtics are predicated on sharing the basketball. How about the coaching of Joe Mazzulla, man? The coaching of Joe Mazzulla has really improved for the Boston Celtics. Now, do I think that's because the Celtics have a stacked roster? Yes, I think a lot of coaches could win a championship with the Celtics roster, but I think Joe Mazzulla still deserves his credit for being able to improve as a coach compared to last season. You look at how the Celtics, they were really good as a team in general, and they were able to win comfortably because of that. They made 16 threes. They made 38% of their shots from the three-point line. Free throws, they could definitely be better in that regard, but for the most part, they did a good job scoring the basketball, and more importantly, they did a great job locking down the duo of Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic. Anytime you can limit those two guys, that means the role players for the Mavericks are not going to play well, because those guys Mavs are dependent on having Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving create open shots for them. And when the Celtics are locking down those kind of guys, that's going to be problematic for the Dallas Mavericks. After watching game 1 yesterday, I'm thinking there is no way the Boston Celtics are going to go ahead and lose that championship, because they are too battle tested to lose to a team like the Dallas Mavericks, and their team in general is just playing too well compared to the Dallas Mavericks. Now, do I think the Mavericks are a legit finals team? Of course they are, but the Boston Celtics, man, they're really good top to bottom. They're not a super team, but they're basically the best thing a team can be that isn't named a super team, because they've got 2 star players and they've got a ton of role players that play really good in the roles. As far as how game 2 is going to play out, I'm actually going to pick the Dallas Mavericks to win game 2. I think it's going to be a close game. We know Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving are clutch players when the game is close, and I think the Mavericks, they're going to go ahead and steal game 2. I think they're going to come out with better effort in game 2. Luka Doncic is going to have a better game passing the basketball, and I think Kyrie Irving is also going to shoot the basketball better in game 2 compared to what he did in game 1. And we all know that when opponents get hot from 3, the Boston Celtics are prone to getting exposed in big time games. They're also not really a clutch team in general either, so keep the game close. I think the Mavericks can go ahead and steal game 2, but as far as whether or not the Mavericks have any chance of winning this series, no, I'm not going to give them any chance to win this series whatsoever, because I think the Celtics are the better team top to bottom, and I think the Celtics are just too hungry to not win a championship this year. You look at how Kristaps Porzingis is the complete X factor of the Boston Celtics. He has played excellent basketball for the Celtics when healthy, and now he's getting healthy at the right time, and he's playing really good basketball. I think the series is going to go 6 games though, but I got the Celtics winning this in 6 games. If it goes 5 games though, I'm not going to be surprised whatsoever. But the fact of the matter is, what happened in game 1 was that Kristaps Porzingis destroyed the Mavericks in humiliating fashion. That is a fact, not an opinion, and that was definitely some humble pie the Mavericks had to take in game 1. Kudos to Kristaps Porzingis for coming back healthy and playing excellent basketball the way they did during the NBA Finals. So that is why I was very impressed with Kristaps Porzingis' performance in game 1 against the Mavs, as there was 0 rust in his game whatsoever. Remember, go ahead and subscribe to Sports Guy Talking, like the video, and please comment down below. If you guys do that, I may shout you guys out in my Instagram story every Monday. That'll be for the @Dustin Tran Instagram account. Make sure to follow me on Instagram @Dustin Tran and Sports Guy Talking. Also, go follow me on Twitter @Dustin Tran. Again, go ahead and do those things that I just told you guys to go do. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed the content that was just produced. Peace out. I hope you enjoyed that video. Want more Sports Guy Talking, the home of great sports content? Make sure you click that subscribe button to get the latest from Sports Guy Talking. Go ahead and like the video, comment down below, check the description box on the video in order to follow my Instagram and Twitter. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from the YouTube channel Sports Guy Talking.